So Nisha, you're still not very well, and to showcase that, can you just please say the words Mike Wazowski for the audience at home?
Mike Wazowski.
Anyway, let's continue. Mike Wazowski. Thor Ragnarok is a film that was applauded by critics for its professionally jovial tone and the fact that, unlike a lot of superhero movies, it didn't take itself all that seriously. A fact that can be largely attributed to one Taika Waititi, the director. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did, yeah.
Thank you very much. Weirdly though, Waititi managed to score the gig by doing something executives at Marvel have openly admitted that nobody has ever managed to pull off before. A sizzle reel.
So I'm assuming a sizzle reel is basically a show reel of work?
Yeah, it's used to sell a product or like an idea. In this case, Taika Waititi is a directorial badass. And executives at Marvel have said, we don't really encourage directors to make sizzle reels because they tend to be a bit shit. And according to Kevin Feige, is that right?
No.
Feige? Kevin Feige, Marvel usually encourages its directors, prospective directors wanting to apply, to helm one of its films, try something a little bit more original, which is something that Taika Waititi chose to ignore.
Do we know what the sizzle reel contained?
We don't know, because there's never been a version of it released anywhere, for reasons we'll get to in a moment. But according to him, it was basically just a series of unrelated clips of films from the 80s set to the Immigrant Song. And if that, the name of that song's like twigging something in your ear holes, that's because it's the song that was used to punctuate every badass moment in Thor Ragnarok. And I'm not sure how you feel about this now, Nisha, but during the Infinity War, when Thor lands and starts whooping ass, were you disappointed that they didn't play the Immigrant Song?
Well, not really, because I'd heard that song so many times.
Oh, okay.
Because a certain person who I live with was obsessed with the song.
Ah, so you were a bit sick of it at the time.
So yeah, I was just kind of glad to not hear it.
Oh, okay. 'Cause in my head, that is now Thor's theme song. Fuck the Thor theme they wrote for Thor 1 and 2. No, bollocks. The Immigrant Song is now Thor's theme song, and when he rocked up on the battlefield and the cloud of lightning, and they didn't play the song, you missed a trick here, because this film, the one immediately preceding it where Thor appeared was Ragnarok, and that song is just so closely intertwined with the action of Thor Ragnarok. I thought, well, now that Marvel has to use this song every time Thor's on screen now, because it's so closely related to him thanks to this movie.
I guess, but I think because it's an Avengers film,
they want
the Avengers theme.
Yeah, because I think it's the Avengers theme that plays when he arrives. But I think the moment would be much hyper if they play the Immigrant Song, as evidenced by this clip. Whoever edits this is going to throw it together. What other songs do you think would have made that moment more hype? Because I've seen a remix of the moment at the end of Endgame, spoilers, where Captain America gets Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
And someone put The Touch from the Transformers movie over that, and that looks fucking awesome.
To be honest, any ACDC song sounds badass with the Avengers.
Well, that makes sense because ACDC are closely related to the Marvel Universe thanks to Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because I think Iron Man 2's entire soundtrack is all ACDC songs.
Yeah.
I want to know who hashed out that deal, but that's besides the point. And they even do that, don't they? Where in spoilers for Spiderman Far From Home, where he makes himself a new suit, and they start playing AC/DC. Oh man, I love Led Zeppelin. It's there are only two bands in the Marvel Universe, and it's Led Zeppelin and AC/DC.
So you said the sizzle reel was set to the Immigrant Song?
Yes, along with lots of unrelated clips of 80s movies to set a tone that Taika Waititi wanted to go for with a Thor movie.
And then it ended up in the actual film itself?
Yeah, and here's the thing, according to Marvel, they were so impressed by the sizzle reel and the song itself, and how it went so well with the action. They said, fuck it, get the rights to that song and put it in the movie. And that was apparently a huge pain in the arse, because Led Zeppelin don't really like people using their music. And we've talked before about for School of Rock, I think they also have a Led Zeppelin song in, I think it might be the Immigrant Song again. And Jack Black literally had to film himself begging for the rights to use the song with all the cast and crew that then got sent to Led Zeppelin, along with a bunch of money, I presume. So, but Marvel was so impressed with this, fuck it, we're going to get that song, we're Marvel, we do what we want. And they were so impressed by the tone of the sizzle reel, and especially the humour that was contained in it, that they even, after they brought Waititi on to direct the film, they got him to punch up the script with more jokes. And then they did something that they don't often do with filmmakers that they let direct their films, because they usually have like quite a firm guiding hand when it comes to tone and voice of the film, like, see Edgar Wright for this one, and that they let him basically just, like, have carte blanche with like what he wanted to do with the character, and they even allowed him to let Chris Hemsworth improvise a lot of his lines and his jokes. He had like shades of that in earlier movies, like in the first Thor movie, like another, and he throws it down the floor, or what, I want a horse, we only sell dogs, well get me one big enough to ride on. And then I think in Avengers, they have the line of like, "That's my brother you're talking about," and then he's like, "He's adopted." Like, it turns out that like Chris Hemsworth actually wants Thor to be a comedic character, and one of the reasons that he wanted to step away from the role is because they wouldn't let him stretch his comedic chops. And this is what cracks me up. Do you know how they discovered that Chris Hemsworth is actually a pretty good comedian, has really good comedic timing? Ghostbusters.
Oh, the 2016 film.
You know, a movie that's so painfully unfunny that no fucker watched it in the cinema? He's the receptionist, and he was allowed to improvise a lot of his lines on that. And they said that's how they discovered that he's actually a pretty good improvisational comedian.
He was the best part of that film.
He is, yeah, and he's the best part of Thor Ragnarok as well. And I think Taika Waititi said, to Marvel, I want this film to showcase Thor at his best, and I want Thor to be the best character in it. And that to me comes across like a backhanded compliment, because it's like saying that, oh yeah, Thor in his other movies wasn't the best part of those movies.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was. Like Thor 2, he's basically a wet fish. Kat Dennings stole every scene she was in that movie. And as well, Thor doesn't really have any good moments in it, except for stuff that Chris Hemsworth improvised, such as when he puts Mjolnir on the coat rack. That was improvised by Chris Hemsworth, because they'd done this take like 3 or 4 times, and he just did it.
The whole world is going crazy. All the stuff we saw is spreading.
And I love the breakdown online saying, yeah, that coat rack's worthy. The coat rack is so worthy. It's the worthiest coat rack in history. This hammer that weighs as much as a fucking sun. All the best moments in those first 2 films are Chris Hemsworth improvising, and Marvel didn't realise up until Taika Waititi stepped in, you should probably let him do this more, because he's really fucking good at it.
I think Loki's quite funny in the third one as well, where he says, "Oh, I'm not doing Get Help."
Yeah, again, that was just that was Waititi just letting the actors riff off each other.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Loki does have something amazing. I've been falling for 30 minutes.
So funny.
So good.
You could just tell there's something different about that film, because there's just so many memorable moments that weren't in the originals. You can tell someone else has got a hand in it.
And the character just seems so different. He doesn't seem like the same character. If you compare it to Thor 2, where he spends half his time going, and he's actually having fun in this one. I think that's what Waititi wanted. I want the movie to be fun. Thor is inherently a silly character, but that doesn't mean that we can't take that silliness seriously, which seems like a contradiction, but it worked.
So you mentioned earlier that we probably wouldn't ever see clips of the scissor reel that was made.
You could probably make one yourself, because I'm hoping that while we've been talking, there's been a little fact bar below saying the clips that Taika Waititi remembered from it. We'll never get anything approaching an official version of what Waititi submitted to Marvel as a DVD extra or something like that, because, he sheepishly admitted in a Radio Times interview, said, yeah, I sent Marvel a sizzle reel of a bunch of 80s movies that I like, set to the Immigrant Song. Problem was, I didn't have a lot of those films on DVD, so I just went to the Pirate Bay and downloaded them.
Oops.
So he just illegally downloaded all the movies, and just for a moment, let's step back and think about how baller that is. That he got the most lucrative gig of his career by just ripping clips off the internet, editing them to a song, and then something. He basically made one of those, an anime music video. It's back in the day of YouTube, when it's I want to listen to a song, and before you'd get to the official song, you'd get here's a lyric video with Comic Sans, and then here's a Dragon Ball fight set to the song. He basically made one of them. And I hope now, knowing that in that sizzle reel that we'll never get to see, there is at least one just unrelated clip of Rock Lee fighting Gara, because that will just complete the triumvirate for me. Right, so Nisha, let's piss some people off and let's just rank some Marvel movies right now, because Thor Ragnarok, I think, is up there in the MCU as the best one of the lot.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch Thor Ragnarok than I'd watch Infinity War, and I would much rather watch Thor Ragnarok than I'd probably watch Endgame. Because I think Thor is just that good. It's just that well made, and every aspect of that film just works because it was made by a guy with a vision. So, what is your favourite movie in the MCU so far?
Apart from Thor, obviously, I do really like Infinity War as well. But I also quite like Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is another one where they clearly had a vision for what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's visually as well. It's quite unique because I think they invented like some new camera techniques just to do that for all like the strange stuff they do with like when he goes like his astral projection, and then when he goes into like the magic dark dimension, and there's like loads of weird stuff. It's just, visually, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's like when he's climbing on buildings, they all turn like sideways and stuff like that. When he's, I can't remember the
mirror dimension.
Villain. Yeah, I can't remember the villain.
It's Mads Mikkelsen, Doctor Doom. I don't remember the name of the villain, but I know it's Mads fucking Mikkelsen. Just from like a visual perspective, I like those two movies like more than I like Endgame and Infinity War. Because Infinity War, they have those like the two fight scenes, like the fight on Titan and the fight at the end. But like, yeah. I'd much rather watch Doctor Strange just from like, just a filmmaking perspective. Like, let's have a look at all the weird shit they did. It reminds me a lot of Logan, where I think Logan's up there as one of my favourite superhero movies. Because I recently found out that, the effect of when Professor X just loses his shit and the world just stops. They created a new film-making technique to get that effect. And basically what they did is they shook the camera as hard as they fucking could. And then stabilised it. And what they did is they had to zoom in ever so slightly so you could cut off all the shaking bit. So what it actually is, it's that everyone's getting shaken but stabilised at the same time, and that's why it looks so strange.
That's so weird.
And I just love when they do that in movies, especially if it's like a superhero movie.
It's like, wasn't there a scene in an X-Men film where it was like, what was the character's name where everyone was frozen and he
it's Quicksilver.
That's it.
The Quicksilver scenes. And again, it just falls into being visually interesting. And I love that for Dark Phoenix, they didn't give Quicksilver another one of those moments. Even though they knew that it was the best moment of the film, because that's why they put it again in the second one. And it's him turning up to list like Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, where he throws everyone out of the X-Mansion in fast motion.
Yeah.
And then, why just do another one of those? Like, I would watch an entire movie of just that. Just the problem solver himself just turns up and fixes whatever issue's going on in a split second.
It's a great visual aspect, and it takes a lot of effort to do as well.
And it also as well, it's an interesting showcase of like the powers that the hero has. Yeah. And that's one of my favourite things about superhero movies. Like, I think I've talked before that one of the things I love most about Thor is that they realise, Captain America's shield just can't be hurt by my hammer. Fuck it. Boom! Just like gong everyone.
I think my other favourite superhero movie would have to be Spider-Man. I've always loved Spider-Man.
Don't you mean Spider-Man 2?
All the
When you say Spider-Man, you mean Spider-Man 2. And you mean especially the train scene.
Of course.
It's the only bit that matters. Just these like the faces Tobey Maguire pulls. He's earning that paycheck. I think I've mentioned it in videos before and it never makes it in, so I'm going to mention it again. And that is, the greatest noise ever in a film is in Spider-Man 2 during the very first web-swinging scene where he goes through a pole. Where Spider-Man's web swinging and he goes into that pose and he goes through a pole and all the sound cuts out for a wow. And me and my mate, when we watch that film, we always like turn it up to like maximum volume. It's like, this is the greatest noise you've ever heard. What? Wow. As this goes through a pole, like, that's right. That sound designer got a fucking raise on that day for that one.
Hello patrons. For this month's readout, we're going to keep it quite simple and we're going to do a simple reading of names with nothing interesting happening at all. So, here is the list of our VIPs. Andy Ruffle, Nyx, Coffee Soap, The Fez Wearer, Sloane Rockefeller, Michelle Holloman, Susan from South Africa, Jacob Ursenbach, G, Rael E. Walters, Bubba P, Umbrella or Tano. I'm really sorry if I pronounce any of these wrong. Did I hear a noise? Joshua Knapp, Duke Schnuglis, Darth Turkey 28, Impy, Grimbacker, Hannon DOA Argove, My Shoes Hurt 69, Andy Ellis, and the one name I can't say, Thani Saeed Aromathi, we'll get it right one of these days, Kim Geishler, Ian Lurs, Lyndon B. Johnson, Tyler Mason, Taylor Brandwood, Amy Brundridge, Matt Gilbert, Nestor Ailman, Anixia, Rotoscope, Anna Goo, Aaron Clausen, Mr. Bad Boy Patch, Ziran King, Sean Watson, Kynan Plays Games, Benjamin Fridman, Job 366, Job 366, Ryan Ryder, RR7567, Seripol, Aero QC, Popsicle Tart, Samuel Chesser, Eric Toledo, Fiorelli, such a wig smell. Brina Lawless, Lousy Shisha, Jet Road, Shay Pinder, Chibisa Mataware, CD Bad, Litigation - Santa Claus, Randy Reese, Caloran, Sam Bartram, Cal Tessa, The Red Oak Shield Virus, Dandeli, Patrick Bratson, Binger, and last but certainly not least, Jordan Dubu. Jordan Dubu. Yes, so that's all our VIPs read out in a calm, casual, nothing interesting happening manner. Thank you to everyone who does continue to support us. We couldn't be doing this weird shit without you. Say bye, Brad. Ah!